All right, everyone see? Hi everyone, my name is Spoonemore, and I'm here to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to show, this is my family here. This is my wife and our 4 kids. And this is our backyard. This will make sense here in a second. But this is our backyard in 2015 when we started growing food. And this is it now. I took this photo earlier today. And over the course of building this, there was a lot that I had to learn. There was a lot I had to memorize, a lot I had to do. And I wanted to make a mobile app to make it easier for the next person that wanted to do that. So last year I started learning how to code, and in January we released our free mobile app that helps people grow food. It's called From Seed to Spoon. I'm going to briefly show it and then go in to show how I built it. So I didn't plan for this resolution issue. This isn't normally how it looks, but you can see you can choose whatever you want to grow. Whenever you tap on it, it gives you exact dates for when you can plant based on where you live. Using the closest weather station, it calculates dates based off that. It shows you everything you need to know about how to grow it. It shows you the companion plants that grow well next to each plant, the things that don't grow well next to each, and the pests that attack each. So this is what I built, and I want to show and talk about how I learned to build this and share my recommendations for anyone else who wants to learn. So this kind of goes into the real part of the presentation here. So there's 5 steps that I broke it out into to anyone that wants to learn how to code. And the first one is to get inspired. For me, I was inspired because I wanted to build an app, but that was only part of it. I had to have that inspiration to learn how to code. And for me, coding had always been this mountain that I had tried to learn in college. I failed at it, literally failed my class. It was this thing that had stuck with me that I didn't want to try and do again until I felt like I had the time to learn how to code. Well, I was out to lunch with my friends on my team, and I was complaining to them. I've worked in QA up until now, so last year I began to transition. So I was in my QA role then, and I was out at lunch with them, and I was complaining about the fact that I couldn't find anyone to help me build this app that I wanted to build. And they told me, Dale, you can do this. You've been writing protractor tests. You've been doing this stuff. You can learn how to do this. So that's what launched me into learning how to code. The second part was to find a mentor. I'm very lucky that I'm on a team with incredible people that are very nice and they're very good at coding, and they're just really good to be around. So those are my mentors. And from here, I'm going to launch into some of these other tabs here. So a mentor is going to help guide you along your path. They're going to help answer any questions that you have. They're going to help review your code and encourage you along the way. And they're going to help you. I'll go another second. So the first step after you have your mentor is to learn the foundational principles. I learned a lot of this in the past, in some of those college courses. So I understood variables, I understood loops, things like that. But I didn't understand this whole JavaScript landscape. I came from desktop application world for the first 10 years of my career. That's what I understood. It was VB6 stuff. It was very, very different from what I do now. So I went to code school in Pluralsight, and that's where I learned most of it. I've listed out some resources on here. YouTube is a great place to learn as well. Wes Boss has a course called JavaScript 30 that talks about how to build 30 different things in 30 days. It's really nice. Fun Function is a great channel as well. The next step from there is you need to find a framework, and the mentor is going to help you with this part. And you don't want to obsess over this part. I'll get to more on that in a minute, but the framework is going to help you build whatever it is you're looking to build. So for me, I wanted to build a mobile app. We use Angular at SCA where I work. We build Angular sites. So I chose Ionic because it was a ecosystem I was going to be living in anyway, so it seemed like a good choice for me. So I again turned to Pluralsight. Deborah Carrata, John Papa, and John Somnes have great courses. Deborah Carrata has my favorite courses on this topic. And again, YouTube is another source where you can go to learn this kind of thing. I learned a lot from there as well. Some other ways to learn though, because you can only spend so much time on a computer, at least I can, before I go crazy. That's what led me into gardening to begin with, because I've dealt with anxiety and depression my entire life, and gardening is the first thing that made an impact. And so from that whole experience, I've learned that I need to get away from a computer from time to time, but my brain still wants to think about coding when I do that. So one way that I can help with that is through podcasts. Syntax is one of my favorites. There's a lot of podcasts out there. Just find whatever it is you're interested in learning about, and I guarantee there's a podcast that covers it. But that's what I do when I'm out in the garden. So when I'm out in the, not always, but a lot of time I'm out there, I'm listening to podcasts while I'm out working, and I'm still able to learn without having to stare at a screen. Another thing I did is I found people on Twitter that I've learned from. I see a lot of people in this room today, like Carmen and all sorts of people that I've learned from, and I follow them on Twitter, and I immerse myself in this world of trying to learn everything they're learning about. And if there's people that Like Deborah Carrata I mentioned earlier, people with blogs. I just read everything they write. I set up my Twitter so I have all these muted words. So literally all I see is software development stuff. I don't see anything else that's not related to software development. And I follow anyone they retweet. And I just immerse myself in this world I started learning how to code in July, and we released the first version of the app in January. So I just immersed myself in that world over that period. And from all of that, there are some lessons that I came away with. So the first one is that I had plenty of time available to learn how to code. I just didn't realize it. I was spending a lot of time before playing video games and doing things like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was on a mission. I wanted to build something. And I was able to find time to do that if I just looked around and pulled from that time. Another thing too is a lot has changed. When I tried to learn in college, it was C++, it was a lot of doing things on your own. These frameworks make it very easy to get going. With Ionic, there was a whole UI library of grids and buttons and tabs and all these things I could go pull the code from and just plug it in, and it got me rolling. Another thing is that prior experiences were way more valuable than I realized. I spent all of my time as a kid building websites, trying to figure out how to make NASCAR video games work different, and just doing all these things on computers, right? I was the first person in my high school to figure out how to burn, MP3s to CDs. I was doing a side hustle in high school, doing all of that. All of those things that I did taught me a lot that I had discounted all throughout my life. These HTML, and CSS skills, all of these things that whenever I learned that I could build a mobile app with Ionic, which is with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, that really energized me, and I had no idea that those skills that I had were so valuable. Another thing is the patience I had to learn was patience and the power of walking away. So in the past, when I got stuck on a problem, I would continue to try and solve it, stay on it all day. And if I didn't solve it by the end of the day, you did not want to be around me. I was in a miserable mood. I was just not the kind of, and then I learned that if you just walk away from a problem, now you want to give it a shot. I'll spend about an hour on a problem, and if I haven't figured it out, I'll get up and I'll walk away. I'll go out in the garden. I'll use another part of my brain that does something different, just something mindless like washing the dishes or something like that. And inevitably, something pops into my head, an idea. I go sprinting back inside. I get to work from home most of the time, so I'm really blessed in that way. And I go sprint inside and I start coding, and sure enough, whatever it is that popped in my head generally gets me on the right track. And along the same lines as don't get stuck. I try not to get stuck on a problem for more than an hour before I either walk away or reach out to one of my teammates or mentors for help. Don't obsess over picking a language and framework. This held me back for a long time because I was so scared to choose the wrong one and then I'd be stuck. Well, I'm in the process of potentially switching to Xamarin now, and I don't feel stuck at all. I feel empowered that I already have a code base I can pull from. I already have experience. I already have the logic. I just have to learn a different syntax now. And then another thing is code some every day. In the beginning, I only liked to code if I had 4 or 5 hours that I knew I could devote to building something cool. Now I try and code, it's my day job now, so I do code, but I code a little bit every day, and that really helps immerse yourself. It gets you more familiar with the syntax, especially when you're first starting out, because it's just like learning a language. The more time that you spend in it, the easier it's gonna be to remember it. And then lastly, fight through imposter syndrome because it's real. I still experience it all the time where I think I'm not good enough, or I'm not talented enough, or I can't figure something out. Just, especially if you have mentors and people around you that can help. In this community here, the Techlahoma community, there's people all throughout here that will be willing to help you. I'm one of them. Reach out to me if you need help with something. But because it's a real thing, imposter syndrome, and if you rely on the people around you that can really help you get through that. So lastly, I'm gonna lead you with this quote, and this is kind of the thing that got me started. It was code the change you want to see in the world. And the idea behind it is this: we live in a world that is unprecedented. At the click of a button, you can submit an app to the App Store. It's in front of billions of people. If you have an idea or something that you want to see different in the world, or something you want to see different, you can build an app that can start the change on that process, right? I wanted to see more people growing their own food because it changed my life. It helped with my anxiety, it helped with my depression, it made me a better person. I think it can do that for everyone else too. So I built an app to help people do it. And we're all, most everyone in this room has the skills to do the same thing. So even if there's not something you're passionate about or something that you want to build on your own, there's probably something out there that's already built, an open source community, code for Tulsa, code for OKC, my project, come help me. But the point is, there's all these projects out there, and there's all this energy that we all have that we can put into making a difference. Victor, we talked about earlier, it was awesome. That was so cool to see. So I think things like that are exactly what we need to make this world a better place, because we have the opportunity to actually change it. Whereas all throughout history, in order to get in front of people, you had to go through newspapers or something. You had to go through this big corporation, right? Well, now we don't. With the click of a button, we're in front of the entire world. So that's what I came to talk about. If you'd like to follow me, I'm on Twitter. This is the information for the app here over on the right. You can follow us. We have YouTube videos that show how we garden and grow food and all sorts of things like that. So thank you for the time today, everyone. I appreciate it. I forgot about the question part. Any questions? Yes.
In addition to the application, do you ever do any like package deals for backyards to help people with physical stuff?
Yeah, so I do. I have links throughout the app to products that I buy that help. So Smart Pots is a company that's grown here locally. I teach classes every month at OSU OKC in Oklahoma City, and I live stream those on our page too. So everything I do is free, though. I feel like I'm very blessed. I feel like I get paid to go to college right now because I get to learn every day, and that's what pays my bills. This is what I do to do something with my anxiety. So, any other questions about anything? Yes.
How did you figure out your design?
The design?
Yeah, UX.
Yeah, so I worked at Alamode for 10 years. It's a real estate software company, and I was a product manager there. So I did a lot of the design work, and I did a lot of our mobile apps. So that's really where I was building software for an app. Our average user was 65. So that's where I learned a lot about design there. There's a book called The Non-Designer's Handbook, I'm sorry, I wish I knew remember the name of it, but Designing for Non-Designers, something along those lines, but that book helped me out a lot. The Ionic library, I really like that component library too, because I can just go in there and see every component available and then figure out what it is the problem I'm trying to solve, and then figure out what component solves that problem best, and then, also another thing I want to mention is this is something my wife and I do together, and she has a really good eye for design and for knowing when I'm not doing something that looks right. So I leaned on her a lot for this. She actually entered all of the data in the app, and she's a nurse. She had no coding experience at all, but she learned JSON and a little bit of HTML so that we can work on it together. And that's our date nights. On Friday nights, we get some wine, and she says, "Tell me about kohlrabi," and I start talking, and she starts typing, and yeah, that's what we do. So. Any other questions? Oh, one thing I want to mention too is that we have kids, right? I showed them earlier before. They were heavily involved in this as well, which is something I want to mention because I'll show them here. Sorry, I'm flying through. My 9-year-old and my 7-year-old built the headers at the top of every vegetable. So you see the tomatoes one? For each one of those, I showed them how to do it once in Adobe Spark Post, and they went through and did it for all of the rest of them. So this is an opportunity too. It's one of the coolest things. Actually, on my drive here, my 9 and 7-year-olds were QAing this because I went through and a lot of my images weren't named right and stuff. I didn't like the way they're named, so I renamed everything, and I knew there'd be broken images throughout. So they found like 14 bugs on the way here of things. I'm coding in the front seat while they're QAing in the back. It's been one of my favorite processes through all this, is being able to expose them to this world and show them, like how you can make software. And they love being able to go to school and show people the app they made and stuff. So yeah, I know I went way over my time. I'm sorry.